All right. Looks like we are live. How's everybody doing tonight? Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Sasquatch Out of the Shadows Live. As always, I'm your host, Alex Pedikov. I hope everybody's having a great Monday night so far. I see Guy15 is already in the chat. Welcome. Welcome to everybody else. As I always say, this is kind of my favorite way to break up the Monday. So we've got a great show in store for tonight. Looking really forward to it. Just as always, a quick reminder for those that have missed previous episodes, we have a whole playlist on the channel with all the previous streams going all the way back to when I first started, I think in March or April with Dr. Jeff Meldrum, and lots of great guests since then. Last week we had a great time with Denver Michaels, author in Denver Michaels, talking about giants and other topics, lake monsters, that sort of stuff. It was a good time. Next week, we're going to be having a show with Eli Watson of the Cryptid Campfire, Karac St. Laurent of Crash Course Cryptozoology, perhaps a few other people as well, to be determined. But it will be another special episode. It's going to be kind of a cryptid cryptozoology panel, something along those lines. We're basically going to be talking about taking some questions and have a couple topics at hand and all sort of give our thoughts on it. And we're going to be revealing the winners from tonight. So that's actually what we're doing tonight. Tonight is a solo show. It's the first solo show I've done. So every episode so far has been with a guest or with multiple guests. So this is kind of neat. I wanted to do this right before the holidays. So what we're actually going to be doing is a charity event. So that's really fun. So what we're going to do is I'm going to be raffling off some items here, which I will reveal shortly. But basically, you have the super chat option, which should be right in the YouTube underneath the chat. Each entry will be $5. So you put a $5 super chat in. That's one entry. How we'll do it is next week we're going to draw name out of the hat, and I'll go over these directions a couple times throughout the show. But basically, we'll draw live on air next week. So you have up to 3 entries. That would mean $15. I mean, you can put more in, but that will count as 3 entries just to sort of make it fair. There's going to be a couple of really awesome prizes. Well, not a couple. We got 4 or 5 here, which I will reveal shortly. All the proceeds will go to an awesome charity called Merlin's Kids, which is actually, I really like what they did. I was doing some research on charities to donate to and that sort of thing, and they kind of stuck out to me because they take rescued dogs and rehabilitate them, and then they'll pair them up with special needs kids and their families. So they're not only to be a service dog. So they're not only saving the dog's life, but they're also, helping out special needs child and their family, and service dogs. Obviously, service dogs do a great job with the kids. So that's what I'll be donating to with the proceeds. So hopefully we get a good amount of folks here that want to participate and do something. I know it's been a rough year for everybody. I think something as special as this, we need to kind of get some positive energy out there, and I know it's tough, and if you'd like, there is actually in the comments there will be a link to donate directly to Merlin's Kids if that's something you'd rather do if you don't want to participate in the raffle here. But yeah, like I said, basically I will start revealing the prizes, and there's not really there's a grand prize, and there's 4 basically prizes. One of them is 2 prizes in one, and we'll reveal them all next week on the show, one at a time. We'll just do a classic old-fashioned drawing in a hat with just names out of a hat. So looks like we have the first one in for Stefan. He put in 1 entry test number 1. Thank you, Stefan. So Stefan's name will then be going into the hat. So let's see here. How's everybody doing? As I said, Guy15 looks like he's already here. Kevin Hamilton, I like that there's nothing happening yet, but this video has 8 likes. Thanks, Kevin. I hope you got the package, Kevin. He recently ordered some stuff for me, some Bigfoot stuff, sort of related to one of the prizes here. And he's in Canada, so I'm really hoping that it comes through. What's up, Johnny? Hey, Sergio. Quick witty. Alex, great show, and always amazed by the guests you have on. Thank you. I appreciate it. Hopefully I'll be somewhat interesting. So what I'm going to do is throughout the show tonight, I will be talking about some of the current projects that I have in the works and things that we're kind of waiting for 2021 here. I'll be showing some pictures from Chasing Legends behind the scenes, as well as Small Town Monsters, on the trail of Bigfoot, so that'll be fun. Johnny Half, good evening, truth seekers and squatchers from Northeast Illinois. Hey, Johnny, how you doing? Stefan is correct. Somebody got a haircut. I did, in fact, get a haircut. Really feels nice to always get that fresh cut. But okay, guys, so we've got a few people in the chat here and watching here. And as more roll through, I will begin revealing more of the prizes. But let's start out with, let's see, Kevin is saying here, didn't get it, but mail travels by dog sled here. Yeah, the mail has been very strange lately. Hey, Ashley, I think that's Josh and his wife, Ashley. How you guys doing? Ashley and Josh here. Hey, guys, awesome to have you with us. So as I said, let's start revealing some of the prizes. So as I was saying, guys, these will be, kind of picked at random. There's no, preferential treatment for the prizes. They're all sort of the same. But this is going to be the grand prize here, which is pretty cool. Grand prizes, and this is the big one that everyone probably wants to win. So this is a handprint. Actually, this is a replica of a Paul Freeman Sasquatch, alleged Sasquatch handprint. Really unique. There's a lot of Bigfoot, footprint castings and that sort of stuff all over the place. There aren't as many handprints. Now, Paul Freeman was one who was known to have quite a few, and this is a replica of a first-generation copy that I actually have. So this is a pretty cool one. Be a good one for your Bigfoot cast collection, for your bookshelf, whatever. If you have some other casts, I mean, how cool is it to have a handprint too? So that's the big prize right there. So, and again, I mentioned for folks that are just joining, I will go over the directions a couple times and make sure people are aware of how to enter. But $5 is the minimum entry for one entry, and you have up to 3 entries per person. So you can put up to $15, and you can put in more, but that will just equal 3 entries. And all the proceeds go to Merlin's Kids, which does awesome work with kids and rehabilitating dogs. So a lot of fun. But all right, let's it looks like we have a question let's just take this question from Stefan, and then I'll reveal another prize. How's that? Stefan says, question for Alex. Are there any deceased members in the cryptid community that you wish had an opportunity to meet or work with? Perhaps some OG peeps? Oh man, that's a great question. Absolutely. There's a lot of folks I would have loved to have interacted with. Obviously, we're talking about people like Grover Krantz. So Dr. Grover Krantz is one of the first academics to lend his hand to Sasquatch. He's one of the pioneers behind the Gigantopithecus theory. Grover Krantz would definitely be one of them. Dr. John Bitternagel, another academic. He was a wildlife biologist, and he wrote one of the best books, one of my favorite books on the subject, which reads like a wildlife guide. I think it's called North American Sasquatch or something along those lines, Field Guide to Sasquatch. But he passed away just a couple years ago. He was out in British Columbia. What a fantastic researcher. Really amazing stuff by Dr. John Bitternagel. There's quite a bit. Yeah, there's definitely quite a few. Trying to think of, just off the top of my head, those are probably the 2 biggest ones I would love to meet. Obviously, maybe Bernard Wevelmans, I don't know how to say it, one of the pioneers of cryptozoology. But okay, let's move on here. So let's reveal another prize. Looks like Map11 put in a $20 super chat. Thank you, Map11. Happy to contribute to such a great cause. Thank you. Yeah. I really wanted it to be something that involves kids, and I thought kids and dogs, I mean, that's great. Merlin's Kids, one of their mottos, I guess, is saving 2 lives, because they're saving, a dog in the process from just being in the pound or just kind of being in a cage and being able to rehabilitate it, pair it up with a kid in need. So thank you, Map11. That's 3 entries for Map11. So let's go on to another prize here. Do I have? Oh, I do have it here. Okay, so another prize will be it's maybe hard to see with the glare here. Let's see if I can minimize this. This is a Sasquatch Out of the Shadows DVD. So this is some of the Sasquatch Out of the Shadows documentaries I've done. This is kind of season 1. I'll put out a season 2 at another point. This is my DVD. It's got a bunch of my documentaries on there. We can open it up and look on the inside, and you can see the DVD, of course, with the Sasquatch Out of the Shadows. Fun. It has 6 episodes, so 6 documentaries. You've got the birthplace of Bigfoot, which was in Northern California. Vermont eyewitness interview with Dax Rushlow, Shy Man of the White Mountains, which is a New Hampshire Bigfoot documentary, searching for Connecticut's Wild Man. That one is obviously about Bigfoot stuff in Connecticut. Bigfoot in the Boneyard with Dallas and Wayne. Dallas unfortunately passed away a few years ago, but there were some interesting researchers in Ohio. And then Bigfoot in the Bridgewater Triangle featuring Joseph DeAndre, who was also in the Bridgewater Triangle documentary. And there's also a bonus feature video, Bigfoot Footprint Fossil. So that will be another one of the prizes that's going to be raffled off next week. So with entries tonight, as we've seen, we have 3 entries so far. So anybody else that wants to contribute, just to go over the rules, I feel like I'm going to be a broken record here, just constantly going over the rules. There's a $5 super chat minimum for 1 entry, and then you can put up to 3 entries, so that would be $15. If you'd like to directly donate to Merlin's Kids, which is the charity I'm going to contribute all this to, there is a link in the description to the video. So if that's something you'd rather do, and feel free to do that as well. So again, another prize. So two prizes so far. We have the Freeman handprint. Pretty cool. Probably right on the back, what it is, just so people know. That's one prize, and the second one would be the DVD. So Sasquatch Out of the Shadows DVD. A lot of glare, but hopefully you can kind of see it. Cool. All right. Let's see. Quick Witty asks, can you please get an interview with the Beast of Brushy Creek director or any Area X members? Would like to hear about them. Doesn't get much coverage. Both sound interesting. Yeah, that would definitely be interesting. Quick Witty. I don't know what the Beast of Brushy Creek is. I've heard it. People brought it up in the comments before, and I think they've mentioned it's in Texas. I would love to get some Area X members. That's actually something I'm in the works on. They're a great group. Obviously, Small Town Monsters and Seth got to go there, and one of the few people that have been let in to check out the North American Wood Ape and their work, the North American Wood Ape Conservancy. That's the name of the group. It's NAWAC. They're in Oklahoma. They have this really interesting area where they basically have people staked out there for months at a time, and they'll have rotations of people coming through, and they've had a lot of activity, and they kind of sit on their data and then release it in a more scientific manner instead of just kind of putting every little picture up. They kind of do like a data drop sort of thing. Really, really fascinating group. I would definitely love to have some of them on. That's a great question. So it looks like we have another entry from Peter Birdsall. Thank you so much, Peter. Peter with the 1 entry there. Awesome. So we're up to 5 entries now, I believe. That is fantastic. So as I mentioned, the drawing for that will all be next week. So moving on, let's bring out another prize here. How about this one? Is kind of a 2-parter. So we have started with the cast here. Let's see. Another prize is this guy. So we have a sort of baby footprint. I don't know if it's kind of hard to see with the glare, perhaps. This is an alleged baby Sasquatch print or something that was found up near the Olympic Peninsula, I believe. Some members of the Olympic Project. I think David Ellis was the researcher. This is obviously a copy of that cast. So it's kind of a unique piece. As we talked about with the handprint, there's obviously a lot of people that have footprint castings. There aren't really that many handprints or small kind of juvenile footprints. So that's really tiny, just to compare that to the handprint. So here's the handprint, and then here would be the small footprint. So it fit right in there. That's just kind of a cool little piece. So that's one part of this prize. Oop, try not to drop it and break it. The second part would be this Granite State Bigfoot comic book. So the Granite State Bigfoot comic book is actually a comic that I worked on with a friend of mine, Michael Mitchell of Mitchell Comics, who unfortunately passed away about a year ago suddenly. Fantastic New Hampshire-based comic artist. Used to do a lot of really cool comic books all about zombies and ghost stuff. He did an Exeter UFO one, and basically one day he messaged me asking if there were any Bigfoot sightings in New Hampshire, and I was like, oh boy, where do we start? So we kind of worked together, and he did all the illustrations in the story, and I just sort of gave him some of these stories over time. I'm just going to pull it out of the plastic so we can reveal it here a little bit. So this comic is New Hampshire focused, but it's got some of my favorite Bigfoot stories from the 1970s that occurred here. So as soon as you open it, it's very cool. It's done in that old school comic style. You can see the storyline, black and white starts. That's supposed to be me, I guess. I didn't really want to be in the comic book, but got put in anyway. But, there's some pretty unique stories in here, as I mentioned, and you flip through, and it's very detailed. And a lot of these things, they're real stories. They're not made up. They're stories that such as the one with Bigfoot in a structure near the White Mountains in New Hampshire. I actually spoke to the gentleman who claimed to have experienced that, who had seen this thing out there. So that's a fun one. Granite State Bigfoot comic book. So here's the description: actual Bigfoot encounters in New Hampshire from the 1970s. So there's that. So these two are basically one prize together. This and the comic book together. So it would be the mini footprint. So we are now up to 3 prizes. So this would be the 1 prize there. We'll go through the list here. Then we have a Sasquatch Out of the Shadows DVD as the other prize. Then we have the Freeman handprint here. So there's that for you, folks. That's what we're up so far, and we will reveal shortly the last prize, which it's they're all pretty unique. Most of them Bigfoot related, but we do have one that's a little more generic with other cryptids. So you'll see that in a moment here. Okay, Kevin has put in a $20 super chat. No need to enter me in the contest, just a donation. Thank you, Kevin. That's awesome. Just awesome to be able to help out with a cool organization like Merlin's Kids. And thank you, Kevin, for that. So let's see. Okay, Kevin also had written, Les Stroud, aka Survivor Man, has suddenly been showing a lot of interest in BF and has been posting a lot of vids. He might be another great guest if you can track it out. Yeah, that's great. I actually tried to message him, couldn't get through to him. I know a few people who know him, so I'm trying to work that out. I actually watched the video this morning. It was popping up on my feed on YouTube. I watched a few minutes of it. One of the Survivor Man Bigfoot. So he actually has on his streaming service, he has a show called Survivor Man Bigfoot, and that's been on TV quite a bit. Obviously, it's been controversial. He's been with some researchers like Todd Standing and people that are controversial like that, but he's done some pretty interesting stuff. It's, if you like the show Survivor Man, it's definitely really cool. I'd love to have Les Stroud on and talk to him about his interest in the subject. And I mean, it was pre doing the show. He had stories about experiencing weird things out in the wilderness in Alaska and other places. Really, really kind of interesting. It would be great to talk to him. So yeah, thanks for the suggestion, Kevin. It's not, I'm used to just having another person talk. So here with me talking the whole time, I have to grab a sip of water or two. But Stefan asked, Alex, what is the difference between wood devils and devil monkeys? I saw online that they are cryptids in the New England region. It's a good question. So basically, wood devils are a logging story from northern New Hampshire, which involve a story. I've been trying to track down the origins for a while. Haven't been able to just yet. But there was a story, supposedly, they would tell up in Coos County in the northern part of New Hampshire of these tall, gray, hairy creatures that would stand behind trees and would scream at night and could stay hidden to the point where you could almost walk into one before actually seeing it. Fits sort of big modern Bigfoot descriptions pretty interestingly. So yeah, it's a story that's been told in that area. It first started appearing in some of the internet forums back in the early 2000s, hunting forums, and it was unclear if it was just an internet rumor that was started, but I was actually told by people who grew up in the area that they said, my grandfather used to scare us with the story of, don't go too far into the woods or the wood devils will get you. So they would actually scare them with that story, and this was well before the internet. So that story's been floating around. Now, devil monkeys are something that's described in across North America, a lot on the East Coast, of these just demonish monkey-like creatures. Now, whether those are escaped monkeys or something else, I don't know. But the difference is the wood devils are more Bigfoot-like or not like just a devilish monkey kind of creature. So that would be the biggest difference between those. But let's see. Chris also says absolutely Les would be a highlight for the show. Yeah, I'd love to have Les on. A lot of great people I'd love to have on. We've got a couple of great shows coming up for the rest of this year. Well, I think there's only 2 shows after this. There would be next week's with Eli and the cryptid kind of, I don't know what we're going to call it, the Cryptid Council or something along those lines, and then also a show with some guys from Illinois that I've had previously on the show that will talk about a Bigfoot documentary they've been working on. Let's see here. Kevin is saying he filmed one of the episodes about 2 hours from where I live. He was with Todd Sanding, who was quite controversial. Yeah, in terms of Les Stroud. Yeah, he's pretty controversial. It's one of those things. There's always people in this community that are going to be abrasive, and those that maybe have different motivations than some of us who are interested in finding out what's going on or just interested in the subject in passing. But let's reveal the last prize. I forgot about that completely as I was getting kind of on a tangent here. But the last prize will be a set of 5 postcards. These are Champ, Lake Champlain, Champ. Speaking of Champ, yeah, Map 11 says cool Champ ornament. Thank you. Yeah, I've got Champ on the tree there. But speaking of Champ, so Champ postcards, this is a set of 5. These are custom. I made these. You can see you got the actual postcard in the back, and there's a set of 5. So let's see here. We've got, this is the first one. So you have kind of a, it's an old school sort of photo, and you have Champ there. This is Mallett's Bay showing Marble Island near Burlington, Vermont. It's one postcard. The second one here is right near Marble Island, Mallett's Bay, Lake Champlain. I don't know if you can see with the glare, but there is the creature in the water there. And then each of them will say Champ, the Lake Champlain monster, on the side, and we'll have information for postage on the back. You've got number 3 here, Regatta on Lake Champlain. So you can see there's a lot of stuff going on, and there's a creature there in the middle of the water. Same sort of deal. Number 4 is the classic humps that are always reported. So this is St. Albans Bay on Lake Champlain near Hathaway Point, Vermont. That's actually very close to where the Sandra Mancy photo was taken. So that's sort of kind of homage to that and those classic lake monster sightings with the humps. And this one's my favorite, but this one is Moonlit Champ. So you've got the moonlit lake and then the creature right in the middle of the water there. It's hard doing this. The camera's inverted, so I'm like pointing my fingers in the wrong directions. But these are, like I said, set of 5 postcards. So again, for anybody that's tuning in that wasn't here at the beginning, this is the Cryptid Holiday Raffle to contribute to Merlin's Kids. So we have a couple of prizes, or a bunch of prizes we're raffling off. $5 super chat per entry. You can do up to 3 entries. So one of the prizes will be this set of 5 postcards, custom, that I've made. Another one will be my Sasquatch of the Shadows DVD. We've got the Granite State Bigfoot comic book here, which, again, I worked on with a friend of mine. Along with the comic book will be a baby Bigfoot track from Washington. And then we've got the Paul Freeman handprint replica cast. So those are the prizes. We'll go over them, I'm sure, a bunch more times by the end of the show. But that's the prizes for now. Let's see here. All right, looks like we got another entry from Joshua Ernest. Love to see support for good charity. Great stuff, Alex. Thank you, Josh. Josh is a friend of mine. He's had some interesting experiences with me in an area. We actually camped out in this area just back in November recently and didn't really have much go on. There was some, we heard like a possible knock, but a year prior in that spot, we had some weird stuff happen and got some audio that's on this channel. One of the videos I posted a couple months back. But thank you, Josh. So that's another entry. Now let's see here. Chris Spitzer says, how about Bob Gimlin? I love his content. Yeah, so Bob Gimlin, he's a YouTube guy, not to be confused with Bob Gimlin of the Patterson Gimlin film, who I'd love to have on as well. But Bob Gimlin does some great videos. Yeah, it'd be cool to have him on for sure. Raptor Crazy says Bob Gimlin, he's not doing interviews anymore. He's getting up in age. Yeah, he's pretty up there in age for sure. Would be very interesting to have him on, but I don't know, with the technology and everything, it's always a little bit harder with some of the older folks, but I'll try my best. James says, hi, everyone, Massachusetts checking in there. Hello from New Hampshire. How you doing, James? Hope you're well. Okay. Kevin asked, did you do the cover art for the DVD yourself? No, I did kind of the graphic. I put the text and everything on there, but no, I didn't do the cover art myself. It was something that I had acquired online. but everything else I kind of put together right on the DVD there. Let's see. Spitzer says, "Hey Raptor, I'm talking about the YouTuber Bob Gimlin." Yeah, so that was where the confusion was there. I'm assuming he took the name Bob Gimlin because it's similar to Bob Gimlin of the Patterson Gimlin film. But all right, guys, anyway, so if anybody has any questions about any projects of mine or anything that's going on, I'm going to start actually showing some photos here, kind of behind the scenes. We've talked a lot on the show about chasing legends, so what I'm going to do is pop open just a couple pictures here, and we'll kind of start talking about Chasing Legends Season 1, and then I'm going to talk about On the Trail of Bigfoot, The Journey as well. So let's see if I can get this open real quick. Just got to get these photos open. Tactical Bigfoot Research. Hey, Mike, how you doing? He's saying, hey, from Western New York. Sorry I'm late. No worries at all, man. Welcome. I think you may be in a couple of the pictures here when I start talking about On the Trail of Bigfoot, The Journey soon. But Stefan asked, thought on Jeremy Wade of River Monsters could be a possible future guest. I mean, at this point, anyone is a possible future guest. That would be really interesting to have Jeremy Wade on, because he's not really into this stuff, cryptozoology. He's done some stuff with lake monsters, Loch Ness, and some other places, but has been looking for more of the larger aquatic fish than really anything else. So it would be interesting to get that perspective. I'm certainly wanting to have people on who don't exactly have anything to do with this field or this subject, whether it be Bigfoot or other cryptids. But all right, guys, so what I'll do is I'll just show some of the pictures here and I'll talk a little bit about them. These are kind of behind the scenes. Actually, what's going to be happening this Wednesday is we're going to be posting the third trailer for Chasing Legends Season 1 dealing with the Pukwudgie. So that's what I'm going to show right now. Let's hope this doesn't crash, but I think it should be fine. So share the screen here. Alrighty. Cool. So these are just, like I said, some behind the scenes pictures rather, from March. So backstory, we had started filming Chasing Legends Season 1 back in March, and talking about in the winter, so March of 2020. And we wrapped filming on this first episode a couple days before COVID really started happening and the lockdowns began, so we had good timing with that. We weren't able to film other episodes until much later on. But this is a picture of downtown Boston, a very historic area for the American Revolution during that time period with the British, and it was one of the old buildings here with, as you can see, with some of the skyscrapers. And as we move down, I gotta click the screen. So here's us in one of the kind of famous little streets there in Boston, near Beacon Hill. We were getting some B-roll shots all around the city that day, so you can see these cobblestone streets. It's old school style, so it's really kind of a popular touristy attraction. We had the whole place to ourselves. I mean, it was a cold day in early March, so it's not like it was exactly crowded, and this was before COVID, so there wasn't any restrictions on being able to go places or how many people could be anywhere, but usually this place is pretty packed with people taking photos and doing that sort of stuff, so it was kind of cool that we had it to ourselves. Now this is us actually interviewing, oh, I think I skipped the photo. Yeah, so this is us interviewing John Horrigan, who is he's a friend of mine. He was the narrator of Lions of the East, Bridgewater Triangle guy, done a lot of investigation into Bigfoot and these sorts of things. I'm going to have John on the show at some point to talk about, if he's willing, of course, talk about his time in the Pacific Northwest, hanging out with John Green and some of the old school Bigfoot guys from back in the day. Really interesting guy. So we actually interviewed him right in the Bridgewater Triangle near the power lines. So these are just two photos, and it was crazy. We had a snowstorm. Long story short, we had a terrible night that previous night in Brockton, Massachusetts, in a hotel that was basically a part homeless shelter, part, I don't know, drug den. We lost power, and there was a snowstorm, and it was pretty wild. And we had to transfer hotels at 1 a.m. because none of us had experienced anything that crazy before. So we had this sudden snowstorm that came out of nowhere, and we thought, oh man, this is going to ruin our production day. We have to go meet with John and do an interview. But it turned out to be really cool because the snow melted after a few hours. But when we got out there in the morning to do the interviews near the dog track, right in Bridgewater near the Hockomock Swamp, we had this awesome snowy kind of look, as you can see right here. This is just a photo of the whole crew here. So this was before Eli was on, before Jack was on. They've been on the show previously when we've done Chasing Legends recap. So it's Brian, Michaela, Nash, myself, and Sammy. So that was kind of the crew there in the beginning. these are just a couple of the cameras we're using. So really, production value is very important to chasing legends, and it's going to be coming out in 2021, right in kind of end of January, early February. We're still figuring that out at the moment, but there's some really cool stuff. Like I said, trailer for this episode will be coming right on Wednesday, every other Wednesday. So there's 2 more. There's the Pukwudgie and the Rougarou, and I'll show some Rougarou pictures as well later. But there's just a couple of cameras we use, a Canon C200, the Canon camcorders. We really try to make it as professional as possible, and I think it looks pretty cool, and I think people will definitely be excited. This is a Jeep that we rented for the production. Now, it's kind of funny, these guys were coming out from Minnesota, and they said, oh, we have a Jeep as the rental car. I'm like, oh, Jeep in Massachusetts, are we really going to need it in Massachusetts? I can understand maybe Arizona or even New Hampshire, one of these places, but Jeep kind of was what we went for, and it actually worked really well because we drove some of the remote parts of the Freetown State Forest that you can really only get to with an off-road vehicle, something that has the capability of switching into, a 4-wheel drive as this Jeep did, and it was really cool. And we kind of drove around some of these areas. So let's see here. This is Nash and myself there taking a selfie with the Jeep as we stopped in a back road. This is on the famous Sonnet Ledge there in Freetown State Forest. Nash getting a shot. And this is us interviewing Paul, who is a journalist. And as we had him on the show, actually, a couple weeks ago, if you want to check that episode out, he was talking to us about the history of the area and his investigations in the Bridgewater Triangle, especially the Pukwudgie subject itself. Just another shot of Paul and the crew. This is some kind of a little structure thing that we had found right there. Right after interviewing Paul, we had sort of just seen this and we thought it was cool, so we decided to film it. This is us getting ready for a night investigation in the Freetown State Forest. Very creepy place. A lot of dark history in that area for those that have read up on it, or will see it in the episode. You'll see it's kind of a creepy place. And this is sort of a funny image put together, of all the strange things that are said to be reported in the Bridgewater Triangle. Obviously pterodactyls and UFOs and Bigfoot, Pukwudgies, Satanism, all this kind of funny stuff. But that's it for the Pukwudgie stuff. So let me just, again, for those that have maybe just joined, talk about just the contest itself. So the raffle. So we're raffling off these prizes. We already have a number of entries in. So it's $5 super chat to enter for Merlin's Kids. That's going to be the charity, and the prizes will be revealed next week in terms of prizes. So again, we have the Granite State Bigfoot comic book along with the Pacific Northwest Washington State baby Bigfoot footprint. That's one of the prizes. Another prize will be Sasquatch at the Shadows DVD here, as you can see, which is some of my documentaries. Then we have the set of 5 Champ postcards. Revealed those. Those are really cool. And the big prize is the Paul Freeman handprint. So again, guys, $5 super chat is an entry, and your name will be drawn next week, out of a hat with everybody else's on the show next week. So those are the prizes there. So you can put 1 entry in, or up to 3, or any amount you'd like to put in, and they're all going to a really good cause with Merlin's Kids. So okay, let's see here. Raptor Crazy says, this is a really good channel. I appreciate everybody on here. I'm a negative Nelly, I guess you could say. Yeah, no worries. I mean, it's good to have people who are, asking some interesting questions and being critical of what's being said, because you can't just believe everything here online. You have to take it with a grain of salt, of course. And that's something we've talked about with our guests before. So Ashley asks, did you feel creepy vibes there? I've been there before. Very eerie. Yeah, the Bridgewater Triangle is definitely a pretty spooky area for sure. A lot of strange history right there in that area. I don't know. I mean, at night we did get some spooky vibes because there's a lot of crime and murders and gruesome stuff that has happened in that forest. That's probably what we were most worried about, was running into some cultists or just somebody crazy out there who was looking to pick a fight. I don't know. I mean, other than that, it wasn't too creepy. Not all too creepy. But all right, guys, let's quickly scoot on over to some more behind-the-scenes pictures from Chasing Legends. Well, actually, we got a question from Raptor. It says, is this going to help children get Christmas presents? So no, it's not exactly that. It's Merlin's Kids is an organization that rescues dogs, and they rehabilitate them and then pair them up with special needs kids and their families as service dogs. So that's, you're kind of getting two for one. You're saving a dog's life. You're also helping better the quality of a child's life. I mean, I was reading that, some kids with autism and some of these, special needs kids that are hurting themselves or have, issues like that. Something like a dog can actually calm them down and bring cortisone levels down. Really interesting. I have a link to the website for Merlin's Kids in the description, and you can donate to there as well. Tactical Bigfoot Research says you should get Forrest Galante. Yeah, I would love to get Forrest Galante. I was talking to him a couple months ago. He's looking for mountain lion stuff in the eastern United States, and I'm hoping that, I might be able to get him on the show someday. That would be awesome. For those that don't know, he's a wildlife biologist, really awesome guy who has a show on Animal Planet called Extinct or Alive. He looks for animals that are deemed to be extinct. So it's sort of cryptozoology. They look for the thylacine, but he's not really into the Bigfoot stuff. But again, just a really fascinating character, and seems like a really nice guy who's dedicated a lot to animals and conservation and those sorts of things. So, okay, let's see here, guys. Let's go for another, let's do another set of pictures here. How's that? Sharing the screen. So now we're talking about Mogollon monster. So we filmed this in July. It's kind of the closest time we were able to actually film when compared to, Pukwudgie. It was a while. So this is myself here with the rim in the background. This is myself and Nash, who I've had on the show. Obviously, we are rocking our explorer hat look, which is really cool. This is setting up a fire during our night investigation. So this will all be in the episode, what actually happened and stuff that we had on. And I know we've talked about it a little bit on the program, previous episodes, but this is just, like I said, just some behind the scenes. This was us at the airport there, getting ready to head up to the Mogollon Rim, which is, man, what a cool place. Really, there's a very unique environment. Again, production value. We kind of run with the same camera setup. We usually have about 4 camcorders, and then we'll have the big Canon just for interviews and that sort of stuff. So let's see here. Oh, this was great. This was a barbecue pit that was basically looked like a revolver up there on the rim. It was the one little gas station restaurant, and they did barbecue every Saturdays. So it was fun. We happened to be there on a Saturday. We did our daytime investigation. We went to get some barbecue, and it was like a 20, 30-minute drive getting out of the woods there to get to the spot. And then after we filled up on barbecue, we decided to start heading back to get ready for our night investigation. This is just the rim itself. I mean, it's a beautiful area. It's almost 10,000 feet of elevation. It's where the Colorado Plateau intersects into the lower parts of Arizona, and it creates this really flat environment on the top, and then it drops down, and there's a lot of valleys and mountains, as you can see, and there's the White Mountains of Arizona not too far from there. Now this was this looks like my camera is totally messed up, but this was actually a the little protector I have on the lens there, which I'm blanking on what they're called here. But anyway, I dropped my lens directly on a rock, and it was the protector here that broke. Luckily, not the lens itself. Otherwise, that would have been a pretty expensive headache. So that was a good thing I didn't break that. This is Nash and Sammy checking out an area. This big hollow tree, and the forests up there are really interesting in the Mogollon Rim. Nash here with a view of the rim, so you can see how you can stand up on the plateau and you can drive around in this area, and you just have this incredible view. And it happened to be raining pretty much the whole time we were there. Nash, as he found some sort of a bones there. We had been finding a lot of bones from other animals in and around the area we were investigating. This is Eli, Cryptid Campfire, and some of the other crew members. So Eli will be on the show next week. We're talking about Cryptid Council, and we're going to have kind of a table talk and reveal the winners from the charity event as well. So here is just some more bones. I had these pictures ordered in a certain order, but I guess they all got kind of messed up in the folder there, which is okay. But these are elk bones that we've been finding out there. This is a selfie of myself with the Mogollon Rim. And again, as I mentioned, it was raining practically the whole time. It was crazy seeing the difference going from Saturday, where it was in the 50s and raining all day, and then the next day we drove down to Phoenix and it was 107 degrees. I mean, it feels like 115 degrees. Absolutely crazy. More of the rim here. This is Nash, and myself, I also crawled into this crevice, and we tried to kind of crawl up, and it was a pretty tight squeeze, but we made it work. And then this is us setting up for our night investigation there in the spot where we had some pretty interesting stuff happen. This is crew member Brian there chilling with the fire, where Brian and myself were stationed here while the rest of the crew was walking around checking out the rest of the area. Oh, and then this is Eli, and then Eli and myself, we rented a Jeep and the last day and drove around the Arizona desert after we finished filming. What an environment. Absolutely amazing. And then this is how I got to travel. I mean, it's pretty cool, even though we got all this mask stuff and everything. It can be pretty uncomfortable, but hey, you can look like a bandit, you know, with with the bandana and the whole look going on. I thought that was pretty fun. But all right, back to the raffle here. Let's see what we got going on. So we have a couple more entries here. Crash Course Cryptozoology, just tuning in now. Love the Explorer hats. Yeah, that's kind of our look. So Stefan has a $49.99 contribution. Thanks again, Stefan. That puts you up to 3 entries now. Okay, I don't know why I just left the studio for a second. But anyway, Stefan, thanks for that. We've also got 1 entry from Macy Fraser. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And Tactical Bigfoot Research with a $10 super chat. Thank you, Mike. Awesome. So again, guys, we have our prizes. The Bigfoot handprint, Paul Freeman. We've got the comic book, the Champ postcard set, DVD, Sasquatch Out of the Shadows DVD, and the baby Bigfoot print. So those are the prizes that will be revealed next week. So thanks to everybody who's contributed so far. I think I haven't been keeping track, honestly, but we have a good amount of submissions so far, which is pretty cool. Let's see what we got here. Raptor Crazy says, my wife works with physically and mentally handicapped people that have dogs, help them to do that. I do support. Yeah, they're awesome. They're, as I said, I was just doing my preliminary research, and it turns out, you know, they do help out with these kids and can really kind of calm them down, which I think is awesome. I think it's really good. You're, like I said, you're saving the dog and you're helping out with people as well. Bob Ritter says, I don't get the Gigano hypothesis. I fully subscribe to the hominid group removed from Homo sapiens. Evolutionary timeline just doesn't work for me. Or is the cranial physiology? Yeah, that's an interesting point. Thanks, Bob, for that comment. Yeah, that's one of those theories. I think that Grover Krantz, and I know Meldrum has talked about it as well, with the Giganto theory, is that it's it's some of the they're trying to find things that may fit what people are describing, and something like Gigantopithecus lived in Southeast Asia, possibly in the same areas that the Yeren is seen in China, and not too far from the Himalayas with the famous Yeti, of course. And it's just one of those things that I don't know. I think we don't know a whole lot about Gigano itself to kind of put it to the Bigfoot mystery. So I don't know. There's a lot of theories, obviously. I don't necessarily subscribe to that one either. I think it's interesting, and I think Gigantopithecus is a really interesting discovery, and especially how it was discovered in Chinese apothecary shops. I mean, that's just that's how a lot of discoveries were actually made prior to the Second World War, with supposed dragon bones that were being crushed up in a lot of these ancient animals. But Quick Witty asks, are you related to the Mountain Beast mystery guy? So am I related to Justin Chernopesky? No, I'm not. I think we're both Slavs. He sounds like he's Polish to me. I'm hoping to have Justin on the show as well. I don't know if it's the beard or not, but he is Canadian, so I'm American, so I'm not related to him, not by blood at least. I guess we're related in the sense that we both enjoy this subject, and I would love to do a crossover. I'd love to get out there and visit him up there in Canada and see some of those beautiful environments that he has on his channels on Mountain Beast Mysteries. Crash Course Cryptozoology says the Giganto theory is pretty interesting in a lot of regards. They have the jaws meant for bipedal type animal, but at the same time, the rest of Gigano anatomy suggests 100% quadruped. Yeah, that's been part of the interesting debate there going on with Gigantopithecus. Now, I'm sure we could talk a little bit about this next week. That's Karac, guys. He will be on the panel discussion next week. So when we reveal all the prizes, so we're going to be revealing all these guys with the fundraiser in the raffle. So we talk a little bit about that. But let's do some more pictures here. How about that, guys? If the pictures are boring, let me know. But I don't know. They're kind of fun to me. So We'll pull up a few champ pictures. I'll go through them a little quicker here, just kind of give you a sneak peek of behind the scenes stuff that was going on during the production, just so we have enough time to cover the Small Town Monsters one as well. So let me just share the screen here, and here we go. So this is a picture of Lake Champlain, one of the, just a reveal there of the lake itself. Really, really just stunning. This was one of the first views we got of the lake itself. And if you've ever been to Lake Champlain, it's just an incredible environment. It's one of my favorite places in the world, and Champ is obviously my favorite cryptid, as I've talked about many times. But getting to show some of my friends their first reveal of Lake Champlain was really cool. Kind of throws people off. This is us behind the scenes. I don't know what's going on here. Nash laying on the floor, Eli hanging around. So we rented an Airbnb, and there was the whole crew in there. And long day of production. You're running around, driving around all day, and you kind of have to hang out the rest of the day. And when you get to the Airbnb, everyone kind of crashes, or we just food coma, because, like I said, you're running around filming all day, kind of feeding off each other's energy and just making the production work. This is part of the lake here. You can see Eli here, and Nash is there in the distance. This is Nash interviewing a woman there, Lake Champlain. I won't reveal too much about her, but she's a really interesting story. She's been on Monster Quest. She's talked about seeing Champ on land, and obviously we did this interview right near where the sighting had happened many years ago. This is in Port Henry, New York, which is famous for a lot of Champ sightings. We were getting some drone footage at the time. There's Nash there with the area of Lake Champlain, which is not even that wide of an area down by the Port Henry, New York area, but it's still massive. I mean, and then when you get to the Burlington area, the lake is just huge. This is us interviewing a longtime journalist there as well, talking about his research into Champ and stories collected over the years. This is the crew with Champ. We found Champ. He was sunbathing on the beach. Just kidding. Obviously, it's just kind of right on the beach there. But it was a neat little photo op, and this is the crew minus Sammy. He wasn't able to make it on this one, but Jack was in there for this one as well. And we've got Eli and Brian and Nash, Michaela, and myself. This is the famous Champ sign in Port Henry. So it's got a lot of the sightings, and it's, kind of a cartoonish looking Champ depiction, but, it's still kind of cool. Champ's Trading Post, which is not too far from Port Henry, New York, but it's on the Vermont side. Really cool little place. They have a few Champ souvenirs. This is an area right near Charlotte, Vermont. Really interesting, beautiful landscape with the lake in the background. As you can see, here's Arnold's Bay, close to where Benedict Arnold actually sunk his fleet during the Revolutionary War, as Lake Champlain was pretty important during the Revolutionary War. This is us heading out onto the water on a research vessel with our friend Gary, who is a scuba diver in the lake, and we got to explore this cave. This used to be an underwater cave in Lake Champlain. Nash climbing up to the top of the island there in Mallett's Bay. So Mallett's Bay, which is featured in, let's see, a couple of these postcards. So this would be Mallett's Bay. So we get to cruise around Mallett's Bay. Here's Eli, glamorous shot of Eli as he's kind of sitting on the boat, just taking it in. I mean, we were getting shots with the GoPros in the water and all sorts of stuff. And this is then with Gary as we're looking on an underwater ROV unit that he has deployed in the water, which is really interesting. We were checking for fish, and we got to see some pretty interesting stuff there in the middle of the lake, in one of the widest sections of the lake. And there, just another view of the lake itself from the boat, very wide section. And then this was a cool mural right near our Airbnb where they had a UFO and alien up here, and then Champ hanging out in the water. And this goes to show how culturally present stuff like Champ is in that area. Sunset there on St. Albans Bay, so near where the Mancy photo was taken. Just some more sunset colors. Us getting ready for our night investigation out in the middle of the lake on kayaks, and the water was like glass, and the stars above you. I mean, it was incredible. Here's Nash with a Champ machete that we saw at an antique shop, and he's got this awesome I Want to Believe shirt on. Eli, just being Eli, I guess, being kind of funny. I don't really know what this is. I think it was a really small table, and it just looked kind of funny. Just some of the beautiful scenery as we were driving back to the Boston area. You can see mountains there in Vermont. There's this beautiful little waterfall I like to stop by. in that part of Vermont. Here's Nash on the cliff right there by the waterfall. Just a couple of those pictures. But all right, let's continue here with the raffle. So we got another submission, $25 from Juanita Kersey. Would love to win, but if not, oh well, good show. Thank you, Juanita, very much. Thank you for those 3 entries, and I'm sure every dollar counts, especially with an organization like Merlin's Kids, where they give to charity, or they're a charity that basically works with rehabilitating dogs and working with children, special needs kids, service dogs. That's kind of what they do, and there, as I said, there's a link to them in the description if you'd like to check that out, or donate directly to them there. So, yeah, and again, prizes, broken record here, but one of the prizes, and we've got some other cool prizes, and we'll be drawing them on air next week during our panel discussion. Guy says, the pictures are cool. I'm not bored at all. Awesome. Glad to hear that. Sergio says, whoa, never heard that before about Giganto's possible quadruped. Yeah, they think that it actually is related to the orangutan, and maybe one of the early ancestors of the orangutan, possibly related. So it would be in that pongid sort of category, which is pretty interesting to think about. But again, there's so little known about it. Karac touched upon it a little bit in his comments, but we'll talk more. We can talk more about that with Karac himself. A couple more questions. So, Crash Course Cryptozoology, Karac says, question, Alexander, any particular piece of evidence you find really fascinating? I ask because of your abundance of handprints and footprints. I would have to say these two, honestly, not just because they're the prizes, but I have plenty of other Bigfoot prints that I've gotten over the years and people have given to me. And one of my fascinating ones is it's a first generation copy, or it's a copy of the first generation of the Patterson-Gimlin film cast. That's one of my favorites. But this one too, because it's a handprint, so unique. You see footprints all the time. There's really only a few like this that are pretty interesting, and this one too, just because of the implications if that's a juvenile. Excuse me. Joshua Ernest asked, do you have any plans that were put on hold because of COVID? Do you have lined up for when things settle down? Yeah, so I mean, we had a lot of months between filming Chasing Legends. So those were plans that got held up. I actually had plans to start working on a book about Bigfoot in New Hampshire. Wasn't able to do that. That would have involved a lot of going to libraries and doing research across the state. Obviously, that wasn't very possible, unfortunately, because of everything going on. So that's something that I really want to do at some point. I know now it's different. Everyone's kind of getting used to the socially distancing stuff, and you're able to actually get into some places. But I gotta, maybe once the weather starts getting a little better, start doing some research on that book. That's something. And Chasing Legends Season 2, there's some stuff that I think we're going to start talking about soon. And, like I said, COVID kind of threw the first season into in imbalance, but we were able to catch back up and start doing other episodes. And speaking of that, Chasing Legends, let's finish up here with another couple photos here. Now, this is from our last shoot in October, where we went to the bayous of South Louisiana. And this episode, the trailer for this will be coming out right after the holidays, I believe, or right after Christmas. So here's just a photo of myself there with one of the cameras as we're looking on the bayou, the crew. I don't know what we're laughing at. I think we were trying to film a scene and somebody kept messing up or something like that. Here's us with our Cajun guide, Cajun man, Billy Gaston. We captured a Rougarou out there. There's Nash, Eli, Kayla, and myself. So not the whole crew, but part of the crew. This was flying into New Orleans. As you can see, the Great Mississippi River there, always a welcoming sight to see, this magnificent river that has such a long history with, American history, and it's just a very important place in American history, rather. Moving through streets of New Orleans here. This was us interviewing Gene. I'm blanking on this guy's name, but we'll let that come out in the episode. Too many names to remember. I'm not very good with names, so he was telling us about Rougarou history and how his grandfather, had some stories growing up in the Cajun part of South Louisiana. Really interesting stories from that time period. Just another angle of Nash talking to himself. So what we usually do with our setups is we have one main camera that's capturing, a full-on wide of the interview, and then we'll have other interview angles from various angles, just getting individuals. So this camera would be also another wide. We usually do 1 or 2 wide, and then have one that will be tight on Nash and then one on the interview subject. Beautiful streets of New Orleans, some of the really interesting French-style architecture there. This is the infamous hand grenade, which is supposed to be one of the most potent drinks in New Orleans. I mean, I drank one. I didn't really feel much. I just felt like I drank a pound of sugar, but I didn't feel really buzzed or anything. I don't know if I just have a high tolerance, but supposedly that strongest drink. The mighty Mississippi again here with a view from the French Quarter. This was Sammy, who was our dedicated, director of photography, as he's hanging out the car, getting the shot as we're driving on the bridge. Very dedicated. Nash in a swamp there in the Jean Lafitte National Park, kind of reserve there, preserve. This is one of these giant cypress trees. I mean, these things are huge. Cypress knees in the water. Eli with a shot from a bridge there, looking down on the bayou, and there's gators and all kinds of stuff here. And it's really interesting. We did our night investigation here. We had a drone off, I guess you could say. We all had 3 drones, and man, I think all 3 of these drones have now gone through damage. I had an accident with mine. We were filming on this same shoot, and it crashed through a tree, and I was able to save it. Sammy crashed his while he was trying to land it. And Eli actually crashed his drone in California afterwards, and I think he's gotten fixed since, but unfortunate event. So this is kind of walking through the Jean Lafitte area. This is Brian and Eli as we're walking through the swamp, eating these like lemons. I forget what they're called, loquats or something like that somebody had planted in the area, and this is one of them. It's like an orange. It's mixed between an orange and it looks like almost looks like a lemon, but it tastes almost like an orange. These are some cracklins down there, and Cajun seasoning on some pork cracklins, really good. This is Billy Gaston, our Cajun guide. This is our Rougarou that we captured, as I mentioned. And this is, we got to check out the bayou, sunrise on the bayou, or sunset on the bayou, and then this is from our night investigation. This is Brian and Eli there up on the boardwalk, and it was a creepy night investigation. I'll have to say that for sure. And again, get to bring out the bandit travel look, the outlaw travel look. So that was fun. But okay, moving on. So Stefan says, question for Alex, do you grow your beard out in an attempt to relate to the Bigfoots? Maybe they'll see you out in the wild and mistake you as one of their own. Not intentionally. I mean, if that happens, I'd be fine with that. But just kind of been growing the beard for a while. But I think they know. I mean, they're smart enough to know what we look like. That we don't look anything like them. So I don't think there's any way to really fool them. Let's see. Kevin Hamilton, Bigfoot forums has some really interesting audio from 2019 recorded in Michigan that is similar to the Sierra sounds. Have you heard this audio? Any thoughts on it? I might have. I'm not sure though. I can't really say. I don't really know which one it is. If you have the link to it or something, please feel free to send it to me. I'm not entirely sure about that one specifically. So Sergio asks, question, do you have any favorite Bigfoot sighting videos from recent years in particular that you find hard to disprove? I've seen one recently that I couldn't explain, a Bigfoot carrying a baby. I think it was like one of these 4th of July footage or something along those lines. I think I do know what you're talking about. In terms of video that's hard to disprove, there's a one I really like by Stacy Brown, which is done with a FLIR. You see this huge object kind of move. So it's going back and forth, swinging through the trees, and it runs through the trees. That's definitely an interesting one. That one's from North Florida, I believe, with Stacy Brown. I used to be kind of skeptical of that. I don't know. I mean, I still am. Of course, you got to be skeptical. But based on Cliff Barrickman's research, and it was on Finding Bigfoot as well, they did some pretty detailed analysis on that location and where that was taken. And since I've been working with this FLIR unit, practically since the summer, since Jonathan Wilk, Massachusetts, let me borrow this one, I've kind of gotten an appreciation, and I believe this is the Scout. This is the model that Stacy Brown footage was taken. Getting an appreciation for how the FLIR works. Pretty interesting, actually. So I find it hard how they would make that work. I mean, it was a really good costume if it was a costume, that's for sure. But I think, it may actually be legit. That's probably one of my top ones because it's FLIR. There's a Bart Catino one there as well from the Sierras. I like the FLIR ones. Those are pretty interesting because that's definitely something interesting. There has been a lot of videos, of course, and a lot of them are possibly hoaxed, or it's kind of hard to tell what's going on. There's the Provo Canyon footage where this thing is kind of moving through Provo Canyon, Utah, and they think it looks like a bear, and then it stands up and freaks them out. There's some pretty interesting videos out there, but I would have to say probably the Fleur, Stacey Brown Fleur one is one of my favorites. But anyway, again, guys, contest, so we'll be raffling off the prizes next week. So for those of you that have already put entries in, still have a chance as we still have the show going on here, but one of the prizes that we raffled, so $5 per entry, $5 super chat. You can put up to $15 in, or as much as you want, but that'll count as 3 entries, 3 entry max, going for Merlin's Kids, which they help rehabilitate rescue dogs and use them as service dogs for kids with disabilities and special needs kids, and really just a cool cause. So for those that want to contribute with that, go for it. Sergio says, I'll check those out now. Thanks. Yeah, they're pretty cool. Once you start going down the rabbit hole, I mean, you may find yourself in a place where you're watching Bigfoot videos on YouTube all night long, but that's nothing wrong with that. Kevin says Fleur now makes a small camera that attaches to your smartphone. It's only about $300. I've seen that. I believe it attaches right to your basically your camera, as you're saying, and I've seen that before. I don't know how effective it is. I've never used it. I think these ones are around $600. I'm not entirely sure, but they're pretty neat. Obviously, the bigger kind of binocular looking ones are pretty expensive, and there's obviously new iterations coming out all the time. But as we're slowing down here with the show, I did want to do another quick photo run with On the Trail of Bigfoot, the journey. So in July, actually, in upstate New York and western Massachusetts, myself and Seth Breedlove and the Small Town Monsters crew, we filmed On the Trail of Journey, on the Trail of Bigfoot, the journey, stepping all over myself here, where we basically went to the area and we did a really in-depth documentary about the Bigfoot topic from Whitehall to western Massachusetts and the Adirondack Park, which is just this massive wilderness environment. And Mike, who's in the comments right now, Tactical Bigfoot Research. Yeah, Mike, he's saying Seek has one too. Is that what you have, Mike? So Mike has a pretty cool night vision system. If you want to throw that in the comments, I'd be happy to read about it. But I'll show those pictures now. This is the expedition where I met Mike. So it's kind of cool to kind of keep in touch with people like that you meet out in the field. And we got to interview Mike and hang out with him while we were there in upstate New York. So I'll show those pictures as well here. Let's see. All righty. So this is a photo of this cave that we had found right sort of towards the central bottom part of the Adirondack Park. So for those who don't know, the Adirondack State Park in New York is one of the largest state parks in the country, I believe. I mean, it's huge. It's just this massive, millions of acres. I think it's 1 million acres. Really interesting area. And there's a lot of Bigfoot history in the area. Lake Champlain is one border of the Adirondacks, and it's just this giant area in New York, and there's a lot of big mountains in the area, and Whitehall is one of the gateways. But this was a cave that we had found near that area that we wanted to kind of go and check out. This was hanging out in the camp at night with Steve Culls in an area near where he's had sightings, and his crew has been researching this area, I think, for almost 2 decades now. So really interesting. We're going to interview Steve, and I've had Steve on the show as well. Steve Culls, the Squatch Detective, one of the earlier shows for those that want to check it out. This was our camp setup. So we had a whole bunch of people. There was not only the crew, there was myself, my brother, Mike, Steve, and their whole research unit. There was a lot of people, and some people were coming and going, but we have our tent set up here, obviously, as you can see. Really cool area. This is interviewing Paul Bartholomew, who I've also had on the show. This is Andy and Seth. All 3 of the people in this photo have been on the show in one way or another. But Paul Bartholomew, who's a excellent author and researcher from Whitehall, New York, has wrote a lot about that. He's in the documentary as well, which is really cool. This is us then interviewing him at his home. It was we started doing it down by the Champlain Canal, and then we ended up going up to his home to do the interview, actually. And then this is him showing Mark Matsky, Small Town Monsters, some of the tracks in his collection, which is amazing. I mean, it's like a hidden a candy store kind of moment. As he's running through his collection, he's got this really cool one where you can still see that there's a twig or a stick in the cast embedded, and that's how it was cast. And then this is just the crew here with Paul, which was really fun. This was just us as we have to finish up interviewing him. This is a mountain that we hiked there. I think it was called Hadley Mountain. Really kind of a cool hike. Now Mike will remember that. he was passing some kidney stones at the time, and he managed to still hike this on a hot summer day. So absolutely kudos to him. He actually says, Mike says, I have a Seek phone and an ATN scope. So that's the night vision equipment that he has. Some pretty interesting stuff. Him and I were kind of running as we were filming there in the camp, and outside the camp. He would have his scope up, and I had the FLIR unit that I was using. So we were getting coverage on both sides of the road that we were walking through with the rest of the group. And here's the crew. This is after the hike. So there's Mike on the side there. Like I said, Mike, awesome for coming up there with us. Definitely did not look easy. This is actually interviewing Mike here. Seth interviewing Mike, which was fun. Then we got to do a helicopter ride over the high peaks wilderness of the Adirondacks, which is just amazing. I mean, the doors were open, got an awful sunburn because half of my body was hanging outside the helicopter. But you can't get this kind of footage with a drone. I mean, drones are amazing, but when you're in a helicopter and getting footage like that, it's just unreal. I don't know why all the pictures are just the back of Seth's head here, but we'll go with that. So this was actually what the helicopter is like. It's just a small basic 4-seater, and like I said, no doors really on there. This was then us interviewing Bruce Hallenbach in Kinderhook, New York. He, has contributed in some of these books, Monsters of New York State, I believe, and Monsters of the North Woods with Paul back in the day, Paul Bartholomew, one of the casts he was showing us. Really interesting. He talked about the Kinderhook creature, which is something that will be featured on the Trail of Bigfoot, The Journey. And then moving on with interviews is Dave McCullough of Squatchachusetts, also been on the show. Dave's awesome. We interviewed him. We got to spend time with the Squatchachusetts crew in Western Massachusetts because it's not that far from Kinderhook, so we kind of swung over there to Savoy State Forest, which is a hotbed of activity. And that's actually where John Wilk has had his sighting when he was a park ranger, and he talked about that on the show. This is an interview with John. He's got the enigmatic Squatchachusetts shirt on, of course. Then this is a crew picture with some of the Squatchachusetts gang, Tim and Eric Vogel, and some other great researchers in the area, as well as just from the New England area. And these are some of the snow machines they have up there near Savoy State Forest. This is up in the High Peaks Wilderness then, just getting some scenic shots of the mountains up in that area. And this was driving up. Oh, man. The name of the mountain is everything. All the names are slipping my mind tonight, but it's one of the mountains you drive up there to. It's got a road that goes all the way up. It's right above Lake Placid, and that's actually Lake Placid down there. You can see sort of in that area, 4,600 feet above sea level. So pretty neat area. Cool to go up there. That's it for those pictures. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the pictures, guys. Just thought I'd share some of those kind of behind the scenes. I know for those that have been watching the show for longer, those have obviously seen some of the episodes we're talking about chasing legends or small town monsters and that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of that sort of stuff that we've been up to even during COVID. Just a lot of stuff you're out in the woods and in the wilderness, so it's a safer environment to be than being in some crowded convention or something. So Kevin Hamilton asks, when you are out filming with your crew and people find out you were doing Bigfoot and other cryptid research, what kind of reaction do they give you? Are they dismissive or interested? So usually if we're out in the woods, we don't really tell people unless we're with researchers. They're obviously on board, but it depends where we go. I mean, when we were in Arizona and Mogollon Rim, we talk to people like, oh, do you know any stories? And they say, oh, people talk about it, but we don't really know much about it. We never have gotten any dismissive or negative things, a lot of interesting things. Lake Champlain, wherever we went, we would talk to people about Champ, and we'd first kind of ask if they had stories, and everyone knows somebody or has had a Champ encounter or knows somebody who's had a Champ encounter. Pukwudgie we experienced where people were more talking about the occult activity than they really were the Pukwudgies themselves, because the Bridgewater Triangle has interesting history of its own. But yeah, it really depends where we are. In Louisiana, it was interesting. We talked to some of these Cajun folks about the Rougarou, and yeah, for them it's the real deal. It's a matter of fact. It's not something that's just sort of made up. I mean, there is a folkloric element to it, but some people really do believe that there's something there, and who are we to go there and just tell them their folklore and the region they live in, that's not valid. Their experiences are not valid based off of the fact that we're just coming and kind of barging in saying, oh, it's real or not. So yeah. But anyway, guys, I'll go over it one last time, do another prize reveal. So for those that are tuning in late, or just maybe joining, obviously doing the charity, we have a good amount of entries in already, and we're raffling off these prizes. They will be revealed next week. $5 super chat gets you one entry, and then you can do up to 3 entries. So first prize, one of the bigger prizes, is the Paul Freeman handprint replica. As you can see, I mean, this thing, it's not too heavy to plaster, but it is pretty neat. I mean, you can hear it. It's very solid. It's one of the prizes. Another one will be the Champ postcard set, custom made by me. You've got some great variety here if you like that. Just kind of a neat postcard just to show off, and a great little collector's item, I guess you could say, too. And this one, which is my favorite, the sunset or nighttime one. Then we've got the Sasquatch of the Shadows DVD here, which has some of the documentaries that I've done. And then, of course, the Granite State Bigfoot comic book. Very detailed pages and great stories. The Hollis Flea Monster, the creature on Bald Mountain. And then the last prize is, combined with the comic book, actually, would be the footprint, the David Alice footprint from the Pacific Northwest, and the Olympic Project guys. Other prizes. So like I said, I mean, we have a good amount of submissions in so far. Hang out a little bit more, and if anyone has any other questions or anything, feel free to throw them in there. I mean, this is basically, the floor is open at this point. Quick Woody says, got to come to Texas. It's the real deal. Aggressive Sasquatch. Yeah, for sure. I'd love to get out there. I mean, I've been to, driven through parts of East Texas. I know that's where there's a lot of Sasquatch stuff going on. When I had Craig Woolheater on, he was always talking about Texas and Fort Worth and some of the sightings in that area in eastern Texas. And in particular, I drove through there going to Fouke, Arkansas. And yeah, it's a lot of bottomlands. It's, these muggy sort of swampy environments, not really what you expect from Texas, or at least it's completely different from Central or West Texas. West Texas is more southwestern, almost desert-like. This is, totally different environment. So they have sightings in Louisiana and Arkansas right over the Texas border. So there's a long history in Texas itself. Iron Dogger says the Daily Dan needs that comic book. Yeah, I'm not really sure. What's the Daily Dan? That would be interesting to, if they're collect comics or cryptid comics, for sure. Central Florida Bigfoot Tampa here. If you make it this way, give me a shout. Oh yeah, I may hit you up on that. I mean, I know we're definitely planning at some point doing some Chasing Legends stuff, possibly in Florida. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff going on down there in terms of skunk ape and other cryptids. Even recently when I had Scott Martis on, we were talking about lake monsters and water monsters. He was talking about a lot of the stuff in Texas. There's river monsters, there's sea monsters, there's all kinds of stuff going on in Florida, not Texas. But yeah, definitely Central Florida Bigfoot. I'll have to message you. Got some areas I'm really interested in, and Florida is another one of these cool environments. It's a totally different environment from where I'm at here up in New England, cold climate, mountainous terrain. Florida's completely flat, has a lot of these plains and a lot of swampland sort of stuff, subtropical areas, and especially when you get down to Everglades and some of those areas. So, I mean, totally crazy environments, alligators, all sorts of exotic escaped pets, everything. Quickly, yeah. Central Bigfoot says, "Oh yeah, the swamp is calling you." Yeah, definitely. I mean, just from being in Louisiana, and and that's even a different environment from some of the stuff in Florida. I love Florida. I was there last year and did some swimming with manatees, which was a real treat. It's a great place. We have the hairy man legend in my area of Central Texas. First sightings predate Patterson 2 years. Oh, very cool. Yeah, so Central Texas. I mean, Quick Witty, if you want to let us know, is that more of a, is there still forest in that area, or what does it look like? Some rolling hills? I'm not really too familiar with Texas for the most part. Mike also says, seen some cool things in Florida. Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, they have one of the only recognized mountain lion populations there in the Florida panthers, which are pretty endangered from what I understand, but are seen from time to time in parts of Florida. Central Florida Bigfoot says, don't forget the snakes, of course, cottonmouths, right? And then the escaped pythons. I was actually reading about that not too long ago. The boa constrictors and all the other things, who knows, maybe anacondas, a lot of exotic pets that get released out there just in the middle of nowhere. So it's quite a cool area. That's what I love about, just even as I mentioned, just these swampy environments. It's not something I'm necessarily super comfortable with, but I'm not I'm not really uncomfortable in it either. It's just I'm not used to it. You've got hogs and snakes and gators and all these other threats. So it was really cool being in Louisiana, and that obviously is going to share some similarities with areas in Florida and other parts of the Southwest. Fouke, Arkansas, even that 6 hours north of South Louisiana, it's a totally different environment. It's much more wooded, and there's little rolling hills, and then there will be the river, and there's mini bayous, and then South Louisiana, it's like 90% bayou in some of these areas. Quick Witty says, thick brush riddled with caves and creeks all around, similar to Area X in my opinion. Oh, pretty cool. So it's a much more sort of, caves and all sorts of stuff. Sounds like a good area for, I'm sure, for deer and a lot of other animal. You guys probably have hog in that area as well. But yeah, guys, so as we're wrapping up the show here, thanks for bearing with me here on this solo show. Hopefully I kept people relatively entertained. We had, let's see here, we had a bunch of submissions actually that will all be put in the hat for the drawing for next week. And then I will be contacting, of course, the winners of each of the prizes. We'll be drawing right live on air. So as I mentioned, we'll have a literal hat or a bucket or something with a slip of paper with the names on it. And, we'll bring up one of the prizes, and then we will do the drawing. And then I will get in contact with that person. So everyone that put in a donation and put in some entries, make sure you tune in next week, because we're going to be revealing that. And as I said, we're going to be having on Eli Watson and Karac St. Laurent so far. We're going to get a couple other folks probably doing cryptid. We're going to be talking, kind of hanging out, having a good time. As the holidays are getting closer, just sort of recapping maybe 2020 as cursed of a year it was in terms of the world. What went on maybe with cryptozoology, and were there any developments, Bigfoot evidence, that kind of stuff, what's been going on. So we'll talk about that. And as I said, then we'll do throughout the show, we will draw each of the prizes starting, we'll start out and we'll keep the best for last with the track there. I know that's what a lot of folks definitely interested in. So we'll do the drawing that way. But thank you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this show. If anybody else would like to donate, just check out the link for Merlin's Kids. It's in the description of this video. And it's basically, we're just going to be talking about, more about that next week. And, with some of the money that we raised, I will be, cutting them a check, sending them that money from the proceeds. Just something I hope for the holidays that we can raise a little positivity. Definitely something that's needed in the world, especially nowadays. But Kevin Hamilton says, fun show, great picks. Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, just figured it was something better than me just rambling the whole time. Just break it up a little bit and show you guys some behind-the-scenes stuff from some of the productions that have been going on in 2020, even with everything going on. Guy 15 says, great episode. I can't wait for next Monday. Quick Witty as well says, great episode. Can't wait till next week. Yeah, thanks, guys. And to those folks that are watching afterwards, are not watching it while it's live, feel free to still send in a donation to the group and just help support a great cause, and hope to see you guys all next week. So as I mentioned, we'll be doing that cryptid sort of panel next week. But thank you guys all for tuning in, and thanks to all who submitted some donations. Glad to see we have a bunch, and it's going to be a fun time next week doing the reveal and just talking about some cool topics. So thanks again, everybody. Hope everyone has a good night and have a great rest of your week, guys. We'll see you later.